Loved ones, here we are. We're on page 360. I believe that's what that says. And it's little jabs that they are. Heidi, I believe you read this last time. You want to read it again?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Okay, I got a question for you guys. Can you hear me okay? I have like an external microphone.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Is it any better than it's been in the past? Or is it
Yes.
about okay? It is. Okay. Am I too loud?
Not, well, we can all adjust that, you know.
Okay, all right. Ross hooked up an external mic for me because anyway. Okay, so 357, little jabs that they are, right?
357, that's right.
Okay. Little jabs that they are. We should rumble, God said. I don't want to. I am too tired, I replied. Come on, give me your best shot, he persisted. Okay, I thought. So I hit him with 8,000 poems. Little jabs that they are. I didn't want to hurt the old guy. Little jabs that they are. We should rumble, God said. I don't want to. I'm too tired, I replied. Come on, give me your best shot, he persisted. Okay, I thought. So I hit him with 8,000 poems. Little jabs that they are. I didn't want to hurt the old guy.
Anybody have a thought about this funny little poem?
He's definitely hilarious, Brother Shankara.
Oh, yeah.
He sure is.
Well, little jabs that they are. You know, first of all, it starts off, God said, you know, we should mix it up. We should rumble. You know, now that's a very modern word for, you know, having quite a scuffle. A rumble is not just, you know, knocking one another's turban off. So I don't want to. I'm too tired, I replied. And I sure get that one. As the old folk saying says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Come on, give me your best shot, he persisted. So what does anybody make of that little exchange between God and Tukaram?
I think for me, Shankara, it's kind of the serious part of it is that God does not give up on us or want us to give up on ourselves. And so
very well observed, Jillian. That's so that's a wonderful thought. God doesn't want to want us to give up, and doesn't want to give us to give up. I'm too tired. Yeah, doesn't want to give up on us to give up on ourselves. That's good. Anybody else have anything to say about that front part of the poem? Okay, I thought. So I hit him with 8,000 poems. Little jabs that they are. Again, that's a boxing term, jabs. You know, it's something that you do to keep your opponent off balance. A jab is not meant to knock somebody out. It's meant to keep them back on their heels, on the defensive. I didn't want to hurt the old guy. What does anyone make of that? And of course, Tukaram was not writing boxing terminology. This is Ladinsky turning it in, turning what Tukaram said into language that we can relate to in modern terms. Who knows what exactly Tukaram said? But it is a
Well,
fact.
I mean, Tukaram is a prolific writer, poet,
Mhm.
right? And so, 8,000 is a large number.
Yeah,
And
oh,
so, I hit him with 8,000 poems, again, not to knock them out, but just little jabs here and there. And, I guess words, I don't know, words instead of physicality.
Say it again, please. I'm sorry.
Words, he used words instead of like being physical, since
Yeah.
we're using boxing terms here. Instead
Right.
of physicality, he used words to kind of spar him on, if you will.
Hmm.
But
And
just
I didn't want to hurt the old guy.
old guy. It's just a delightful poem.
Anybody else got any thoughts about the end of it here? This 8,000 little jabs.
Yeah, good morning. Good evening, everybody. Hello, everybody.
Good to see you back.
Thank you, friend. Yeah, we missed you last week. It's good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Yes, we were all thinking about you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Of course. But yeah, this poem did confuse me. Sometimes I read a poem and it clicks, I circle it, I start, I'm like, that really resonates with me. This one, I was trying to figure out, why God would want to rumble, right? And the jab, to me, it's, a jab is kind of fighting terminology, but then how he jabs him is he writes 8,000 poems, which
Right.
is, we don't typically think of that as a jab, but as a gesture of love, right? To
Right.
write a poem. So to me, there's a lot. This one did confuse me. It's probably one I would read and I would say, "Oh, I don't get it," and I would kind of turn the page because why is God wanting to rumble? Why do I want to? He doesn't want to hurt. It's just the language of fighting mixed with these poems. To me, I was kind of confused by it.
Well, I think Jillian really got the front part, when she said what she said. God wants this relationship, and he wants this intense relationship. I mean, to rumble with somebody is to get pretty intense. But Jillian pointed out, Tukaram's immediate response is, "I'm too tired." And God doesn't give up on the relationship, even in this intense way. He says, "Come on, give me your best shot," which is again a boxing term. It's one that you will hear boxers say to their sparring partners. Give me your best shot, so that they can see if they can block it.
So to me, like, what's the shot that he wants? He wants him to rumble with him, write him a poem.
I don't know. I honestly don't know either, Jeffrey.
To me, I find I find the language. To me, this was one that did give me some question in terms of like, what was I supposed to sort of walk away? What was the big message?
What was the takeaway? Well,
Yeah.
Tukaram had this very intense, humorous, and sometimes adversarial relationship with God. If you read the whole body of the poems that are represented here in this, we see that he and God are not always, so to speak, on the same page. So God finally tells him not to be so cute and sends a taxi for him. Anybody else got anything to add? We can go on. This isn't Tukaram's magnum opus.
The only thing I thought about that last stanza, I didn't want to hurt the old guy, is that, you know, these little jabs, and when we have any kind of adversarial or intense relationship with anybody, our intent is often not to hurt, but we are being defensive or, you know, finding our own struggles in the relationship. And so having kind of be encouraged to rumble, he's saying, you know, I'm not doing this to hurt you or to leave God out of my life. I just am, you know, participating as best I know how.
I think that's very well said, Julie. I hit him with 8,000 poems.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's move along then. Jillian, you want to read the next one?
Oh, okay. A delirious gang. A delirious gang of club-bearing ants surrounded an elephant's house and started shouting, "You better watch out." I understand exactly what the elephant then thought. Scholars, you are lucky I am always in a good mood. A delirious gang. A delirious gang of club-bearing ants surrounded an elephant's house and started shouting, "You better watch out." I understand exactly what the elephant then thought. Scholars, you are lucky I am always in a good mood.
Once again, a combative context here, you know, being surrounded by a delirious gang of club-bearing ants. Kind of puts scholars in their place, eh? Scholars and critics and people of that ilk. Because what could an elephant do if he decided to give battle with the ants? Stomp, 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 finished. Anyone else have anything? There's a through line from the last poem to this one about this adversarial relationship with certain kinds of minds. Anybody at all? Got anything? Tukaram, you're kind of leaving us in the dust here. Somebody was going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say something. Could the elephant be Tukaram himself?
Oh, that's how I see it. Yeah. I understood what he said. You know, that's.
And he's kind of putting down the people who are scholars, you know, the sort of dry knowledge, whereas he is more to the sort of crazy wisdom. And so I see the elephant as being Tukaram.
I do too. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he says, you better be glad I'm always in a good mood.
Yeah, with this one, I did write some notes down on this one. I was interested in the last bit where he says, "I am always in a good mood." So I was like, what is something that's always in a good mood? Is he pointing to something absolute, right? Always. A good mood to me is open, loving, present, right? So it could even be referring to God, right? I am always in a good mood, whether you're a club bearing ant or an elephant, or you want to rumble, right? This is always open, present, and loving. It's always in a good mood, no matter the content, no matter the circumstances. It embraces all, it's absolute, so it even the club bearing ants, if you're always in a good mood, what does it matter if they've got clubs or anything else? I'm always in a good mood.
Very well said,
Mhm.
Jeffrey. And I think pointing to the always is the absolute, which is always going to point toward the divine.
Yeah.
It's only the divine that is always in a particular way. So the elephant is also God, I suppose. But then Tukaram identifies entirely with God in a lot of what he says and does. So I like what you said, Jeffrey. That's very good. Always. Yeah, I think you hit on the key word.
Mhm.
And I think just thinking about my own mood, times when I, feel like I'm in a good mood, it is when I'm feeling loving and open and present,
Sure.
So that is something about the presence or God or love that is always in a good mood, right? It's if you remember that it's there, right? If you're not in the future or dwelling in the past or in your thoughts about your to-do list, even if you are, or if you are, like, you'd be fully present, like, oh, I'm right now, my presence was with this to-do list and surrender to that to-do list, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting. I did give this some contemplation.
Good. Wonderful. You want to read the next one, a fancy event?
Sure, I'd love to. A fancy event. I was invited to a fancy event, and when I got there, one of the guests said, Tukaram, your shirt is on backwards, and so are your pants, and it looks like your hair never heard the word comb, and your shoes don't match. I replied, thanks, I noticed all that before leaving, but why try to fool anyone?
Nah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
I like that one too.
This is one of my favorites of Tukaram's poems right here.
Jeffrey, you should get paid for reading.
Well, I was a theater major in a past life.
Okay, all right.
Not to
No,
show
really,
my
it's-
cards, but the acting career didn't work out. I'm a preschool teacher, but I use those skills daily.
Yes, but
know.
you could, on the side, you could do some voiceover stuff, some voiceover work, because you have a
Oh,
great,
you're so kind. Well,
well,
thank you so much.
it's true. Anyway, I
Oh,
just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So this almost seems like a counterpoint to the previous two poems. There's I'm all upside down and backwards. I've got, nothing matches. My hair's never combed. I'm completely inappropriate to the world of fancy events. And yet I'm totally authentic. Totally authentic. No sense trying to fool anyone. And, I think, again, the word fool is a very, very clever choice here. The fool is the one who is outside the rest of the court. They're the ones who can make fun of the king. They're the one who can make fun of the other courtiers in the king's chamber. The fool is a interesting figure. So I don't think it's again, Ladinsky's as careful as Tukaram in his choice of words. So he's acting the fool. He says, I noticed all that.
And I have to say, I have been to a fair number of those fancy events,
Yes,
okay, in
ma'am.
my
Yes.
day. And male and females, a great deal of emphasis is put on what you wear and what
Oh,
you're supposed to wear, I
yes.
mean, they
Mhm.
won't let you in if you don't have certain clothes on.
Right.
So I just find that so interesting. He knew ahead of time, but was, but went anyway.
Yes, in the shogun's court, there was a dress code for each day.
Hmm.
In the shoguns of Japan, there was a dress code for each day.
Wow.
And people would cleverly see that someone was misinformed as to what the dress code was for the day, so that when they appeared, they would be disgraced.
Hmm.
Ah, there's Cashew. Hello there, Cashew.
Here's Cashew. He's not trying to fool anyone either, Cashew.
So anyone else have anything to say about this funny and very engaging poem?
The only thing I thought about this was that, again, I'm kind of going for the serious side of it, is that God accepts us whatever we're wearing. If the fancy event is run by God, were it run by God, he would accept all of us, whatever we're wearing.
Well, yeah, you're right. And since Tukaram would say all events, all of everything is run by God. So it wasn't God that called him to account for his appearance. It was one of the other guests.
Yeah, I really this idea of fitting in, right? This idea of, we want to fit in when we feel like we don't belong, when we feel separate. How do I need to behave for these people to accept me so I could be part of the puzzle, so I can fit in, because we feel very separate. And a lot of our choices are made because we have this sense of fragmentation and
Right.
needing to get something to fit in. So if I just say the right things, wear the right kind of jacket, people will accept me and I'll feel whole,
Yeah.
right? And I think this is saying, what whole? Like, this is completely fit into what? To fit in, you need two things, like, and I think this is saying, why try to fool anyone? It's just one.
Right.
How do there's no outside of this to fit into something else. It's just so whole,
Yeah.
and they talk about that oneness and wholeness and love and unicity. And
Right.
I think at point, like, fitting into what? That's like, there's no fitting in. It's just, if it's whole, where would it fit?
Right.
Was one way to interpret, or that was kind of where my head was at the time.
Well, very nice. And this is the last poem in the book.
Mm.
So we're going to start again with Rabia. And we have time tonight to read Rabia's biography. If somebody, let's see, where am I? Oh, I just have such trouble seeing. Table of contents. There we are. Okay, Rabia. Oh, come on. Gracious sakes, why am I having such trouble finding it? There we are. Rabia. Okay. Haima, would you like to read Rabia's
Sure.
biography for us?
Sure, Brother Shankara. I'll be honored to. Rabia. When God said, "My hands are yours," I saw that I could heal any creature in this world. I saw that the divine beauty in each heart is the root of all time and space. Rabia of Basra, 717 to 801, is without doubt the most popular and influential of female Islamic saints and a central figure in the Sufi tradition. She was born nearly 500 years before Rumi, and although it is rarely said, she, perhaps more than any other poet, influenced his writings. Rabia grew up in a part of ancient Mesopotamia that is now Iraq. She was the fourth daughter of impoverished parents, and a story connected with her birth tells of the Prophet Muhammad appearing to her father in a dream to tell him that his daughter would be revered as a great saint. The sensuousness of Rabia's poetry may be a bit shocking to some, though it was probably more so in its original. Even conservative scholarly translations cannot get around its, at times, graphic eroticism. Many myths surround her life and poems, but one has been recently confirmed by one of the most respected contemporary spiritual teachers and may well be a source of this sensuality. When Rabia was quite young, she became separated from her parents. Perhaps they died, and while wandering homeless, she was literally stolen and sold into slavery. Because of her remarkable beauty, a famous brothel brought her for a large sum, and it is believed she lived and was forced to work as one might in a brothel for many years. She wrote, "What a place for trials and transformation did my lover put me, but never once did he look upon me as if I were impure." Dear sisters, all we do in this world, whatever happens, is bringing us closer to God. Rabia may be a timely spiritual voice for women of this century, especially for any woman or man who has had to suffer the emotionally crippling degradation of unwanted touch. She was both physically and sexually abused from an early age, yet still became one of the greatest women saints and poets known to history. When she was about 50, she was given her freedom, most likely bought by her by a rich patron. The remaining years of her life were devoted to meditation and prayer, and she would often see visitors seeking guidance about their lives. Many miracles are attributed to her, and apparently she was offered large sums for curing people. I like a comment attributed to her when refusing a bag of gold. "Dear, if you leave that, flies will gather as if a horse just relieved himself, and I might slip in it while dancing." As this great woman once wrote, "Show me where it hurts," God said, "and every cell in my body burst into tears before his tender eyes. He has repaid me.
Would you repeat that, please,
Sure.
and show me?
Show me where it hurts, God said. And every cell in my body burst into tears before his tender eyes. He has repaid me, though, for all my suffering in a way I never wanted. The sun is now in homage to my face because it knows I have seen God. But that was not his payment. The soul cannot describe his gift. I just spoke about the sun like that because I like beautiful words and because it is true, creation is in homage to us. I'll go back and reread the whole thing again, Brother Shankara.
Okay, dear.
Rabia, when God said, "My hands are yours," I saw that I could heal any creature in this world. I saw that the divine beauty in each heart is the root of all time and space. Rabia of Basra, c. 717 to 801, is without doubt the most popular and influential of female Islamic saints and a central figure in the Sufi tradition. She was born nearly 500 before Rumi, and although it is rarely said, she, perhaps more than any other poet, influenced his writings. Rabia grew up in a part of ancient Mesopotamia that is now Iraq. She was the fourth daughter of impoverished parents, and a story connected with her birth tells of the Prophet Muhammad appearing to her father in a dream to tell him that his daughter would be revered as a great saint. The sensuousness of Rabia's poetry may be a bit shocking to some, though it was probably more so in its original. Even conservative scholarly translations cannot get around its, at times, graphic eroticism. Many myths surround her life and poems, but one has been recently confirmed by one of the most respected contemporary spiritual teachers and may well be a source of this sensuality. When Rabia was quite young, she became separated from her parents. Perhaps they died, and while wandering homeless, she was literally stolen and sold into slavery. Because of her remarkable beauty, a famous brothel brought her for a large sum, and it is believed she lived and was forced to work as one might in a brothel for many years. She wrote, "What a place for trials and transformation did my lover put me. But never once did he look upon me as if I were impure." Dear sisters, all we do in this world, whatever happens, is bringing us closer to God. Rabia may be a timely spiritual voice for women of this century, especially for any woman or man who has had to suffer the emotionally crippling degradation of unwanted touch. She was both physically and sexually abused from an early age, yet still became one of the greatest women saints and poets known to history. When she was about 50, she was given her freedom, most likely bought for her by a rich patron. The remaining years of her life were devoted to meditation and prayer, and she would often see visitors seeking guidance about their lives. Many miracles are attributed to her, and apparently she was offered large sums for curing people. I like a comment attributed to her when refusing a bag of gold. Dear, if you leave that, flies will gather as if a horse just relieved himself, and I might slip in it while dancing. As this great woman once wrote, show me where it hurts, God said, and every cell in my body burst into tears before his tender eyes. He has repaid me, though, for all my suffering in a way I never wanted. The sun is now in homage to my face because it knows I have seen God. But that was not his payment. The soul cannot describe his gift. I just spoke about the sun like that because I like beautiful words and because it is true. Creation is in homage to us. Oh, what a beautiful story of her. So touching.
Anyone, please?
So touching, Brother Shankar.
Yes.
Such an inspiration to the world. She is truly an inspiration.
Anyone else would like to remark on anything said in this introduction to Rabia?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I was wondering what she could have meant when she said that he has repaid me, though, for all my sufferings in a way I never wanted.
Well, when she describes the repayment, she says it cannot be described. The soul can't describe what the actual repayment was. The inference from here is that she did not want that transcendent consciousness. She didn't actively want it. As a matter of fact, Patanjali says it's not something you can want. Sri Ramakrishna also affirms that. It's something that only the divine can impart, can give. And it is the full transcendent experience. She gestures toward it when she said, I have seen God. So, it's in the Sanskrit terminology, it would be the highest samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, which of course cannot be said anything about because there's no experiencer there. The mind has been left behind. These are just words I'm saying. Please don't think I understand what I'm saying. I have no idea what nirvikalpa samadhi really is. But it is not something, as Patanjali points out and as Sri Ramakrishna affirms, that you can want. It's something that the divine imparts. That's the understanding from here, Swami.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Anything else about Rabia, the introduction to Rabia?
This is one example, Brother Shankara, that through difficulties, adversities in life, how you can get closer to God, that is your soul, that it cannot be. She said the soul cannot describe his gift.
Yes.
That's a prime example of through adversity, you can look at the better side or the bitter side. She looked at the better side, even though she faced such harsh treatments, but she still saw the light in her soul. That's what I am hearing from her.
Yes.
That
The
people
gift was to the soul,
Exactly.
not to the corporeal being.
She saw the gift, the light in the soul. That's what I see. She's a wonderful example of adversity and getting closer to God.
Yes. Well, we see that in many of these poets
Exactly.
as we go through. St. John of the Cross, my God.
I love that she can't describe the gift, but she's dancing. I love this image of her
Mhm.
dancing. You know, leave the money. You know, that's gonna draw a crowd. You know, like manure to flower,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I don't want to slip because I love that she's dancing. Right? What a beautiful image of
Yes.
her dancing around all these difficulties, all these adversities, but still she's, you know, she's in touch with something that's bigger than all that and holds all that.
And
So
of course, it's important to remember that one of the most prevalent Sufi spiritual practices is dancing.
Hmm.
And they have a particular kind of dancing. And it is a dancing that puts you, if practiced till you perfect it, it puts you in a state of ecstasy.
Hmm.
And you're sure not going to be able to do it if you're thinking about a bag of gold and the value of a bag of gold. So I love that. As one can only agree with Ladinsky. What a beautiful thing she said. Thank you, Jeffrey. Anyone else? Anything? Well, I'll just say that I think that it speaks to who Ladinsky is, that he leads with Rabia.
Hmm.
The first poet that he offers to us is this great saint who transcended what would ordinarily be regarded as a life of pure horror, forced into sex slavery, physically and sexually abused, which is part of life in a brothel, apparently.
I think it's notable too that he starts with a woman.
Yes, oh yes, I do too. I think it's very notable.
In the arts world, whether it's painting or poetry, especially painting, very talented, creative women over the centuries have always been ignored, pushed aside because the men took precedence.
Yes.
So,
You, lady, take the lower berth.
mm-hmm.
Berth. Yes, well, I don't think there's any accident in it either, that he was saluting the divine feminine. If we read what is said about Ladinsky himself, by himself, in this book, he was a student of a great lineage in India that involves Meher Baba, who is said to be a reincarnation of Christ. And apparently there's reason to believe that, although I've never studied any of that. I know about it, but I've never made any study of it at all. Anything else from anyone about what Ladinsky says about her, why he says it, why he leads with her? Anything at all? Okay, we've still got some minutes. And Jillian, why don't you read this first one?
Okay. One day he did not leave after kissing me. One day he did not leave after kissing me.
Now, in just those few words, so much is said. What does anyone else hear in this very short but very poignant poem?
I read it as in my mind that God never left her. The divine never left her. It's always inside. She could feel the divinity within herself. That's what I'm reading.
Mhm.
She made it capital letter, he, that's
Mm-hmm.
God never left me. No matter how many troubles I'm going through, he was always there. He was always there for me, even after kissing me.
But on many days, he had left because one day he didn't.
Mm.
That's right. Right.
Mm.
Many days he did leave. I
Which
see that.
Mirabai laments about that. You know, she just cries to the heavens.
Mhm. I see this relating to her life in the brothel,
Yes.
right? That every man who, quote, kissed her left, right? That's the way of life in a brothel.
Mm-hmm.
But one day he, the capital H, he did not leave.
Yeah. And even in the romantic world apart from brothels,
Mhm.
you know, we're intimate, we smoke a cigarette, and then the lover gets up and goes.
Yep.
So you're left alone for the night. When she says he did not leave, that means, in the words of the Bhagavad Gita, I am thine and thou art mine.
Mhm.
And then that becomes an eternal relationship. Always was, really, but at least according to what Sri Krishna says.
And it's interesting what you said, Shankar, about one day implying that there were other days where he did leave. I read that differently. I read that, okay, so there were all of these days where he left. And then one day, this one particular day, he didn't leave.
Mm-hmm. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant that he kind of came and went.
On those other days, he came and went.
Mhm.
He kissed me on many days,
Mhm.
but one day he didn't leave after kissing me.
Right.
And as you pointed out, and that's one of the reasons that this poem seems so poignant from here, is that it does point to the life that she lived for so long.
Mhm.
I think for me, the one day he did not leave after kissing me. Sometimes, when we're having a bad day, or like Monday. Oh, well, Monday, God's not here. I got a lot going on, or I got a flat tire. Sometimes it's so, we feel it when we're in nature, or when we're feeling calm, or when circumstances are lining up just so, then we can, oh, there he is, right? Like, everything's working out. I got the job promotion. I'm engaged, like sometimes we could think, oh, he's here. But then when things are going wrong, where'd he go? Right. But then one day he didn't leave. So even when she has the flat tire or she's working in a brothel or, he's still there, right? Poop on my shoe, just lost my job, getting a divorce, one day he didn't leave. He's still there. Is one way you can interpret it too.
I always like what you have to say, Jeffrey. That's all very well observed. It doesn't, it doesn't do any good to have when we have a lover who sticks with us, no matter what, as you said, bad day, good day, then then we have a true love.
Yes. It's unconditional, unconditional.
Mhm.
When I think about my own experiences with trying to understand things and like days I feel really present, days I feel not present, judging it, evaluating, comparing it. I think the more and more some of that loosens up, you just kind of always feel that presence, right? It's just, and if you overlook it for a moment, it becomes easier to see it, right? So, even when things are going wrong and nothing's working out, it's still there, right? It's still, and in some ways, those hard times, those difficult times, like she says in the opening, bring us closer. Like,
Yeah.
you lean in a little more, or it helps you see where you were making a mistake or sinning, sort of turning away from the light, or yeah, I think if you're lucky, I suppose you get to a place where it doesn't leave, and it never does. I mean, I don't think it does come and go, but it certainly can appear when you're basing your experience on circumstances and content and how things are looking from an, like, oh, what are the, but yeah, there comes a real peace, a real sense of ease when you just are always aware of this present, because it is always here. You can't get away from it. There is no escape hatch into some other presence, right? It's so absolute, and I think that's the real miracle. And of not leaving after this intimate thing, it's such a beautiful. I mean, it's so short, but it's so evocative.
And it is the first poem in the book.
Mhm.
And she tells us in the opening how she likes beautiful words, and because it's true. Yes, words, but also, and it's true.
Right.
I love that.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I think the way I look at it is if we insert the word finally after one day, finally, he did not leave after kissing me. And that was the day when they became one.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
It, that finally is definitely implied.
Mhm.
You know that, as another poet said, though I have wept and fasted, though I have wept and prayed, every one of these saints wept and fasted, wept and prayed. Many tears were shed. And then there might be that brief moment of presence, and then it's gone again. But one day, not so. One day it's... And I guess we'll wind it up there. It's almost the half hour. Any final thought from anyone about our having restarted the book again? Anything at all about your feelings about Ladinsky or this whole book by itself? What is this love poems from God? Any thoughts at all?
I have not been all the way through the book as many of you have, so I'm excited about that. And I love that, so many times people separate East and West. And I love that he includes both here, drawing from both East and West spiritual traditions.
Yes, and very much so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really, I've read other translations of Rumi, and they can be difficult sometimes. I really like how he's modernized some of the language. So to me, that is very helpful to have it in a vernacular that feels more familiar to me.
Yes.
Mhm.
And like those club-bearing ants, many scholars have been outraged at the way he has not translated but interpreted the poems. How dare you? Well,
He
he
dared.
did. He dared, and he did it for us so that we would understand what they were saying.
But I think it's interesting what you said there, Jeffrey, is that he modernized the language, and you've talked about that a lot too, Brother Shankara. He modernized the language, but he didn't necessarily simplify or dumb down.
Oh
I
no!
mean, just the amount of time that we've spent on this one little 3-line or 4-line poem, it still has, the work still has great depth and complexity and kind of mystery around it.
Yeah.
Which,
Yes. And that last qualifier that you said, Jillian, mystery.
mhm,
All of these people embody that great mystery. And that's why their poems, it seems to me, are so compelling.
mhm,
They have been, Saint Teresa of Avila is one of the most eloquent about it, but all of them talk about it in one way or the other. They've been to what we can just loosely call the other side.
mhm,
They've been where Jill Bolte Taylor got
Mm.
because of her stroke,
mhm,
and lived in that enough to where that became the capital R reality for them, rather than the left brain reality. Anything else before we close up? All right, dears, next week we'll start with the next poem, which is what? Our Beauty. Oh my goodness. This is what a follow-on to that first. She begins to gesture at how to get there. So anything else? All right. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the divine presence. So
Amen.
until next Monday, for anyone else have something to say? Somebody started to say something.
I just said amen.
Oh, amen indeed, yes. Amen, thank you. Can I get an amen from the amen corner? All right, dears. Well, until next Monday, unless I see you in some other class, all the other classes, as far as I know, will go forward at this point. The Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and then next Sunday, the talk is on the wonder of our stardust spacesuit.
Mm.
And Shankara, how are you feeling?
Oh, sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I'm my mood is good. But, after a week's, 5 days of being in the hospital, receiving intravenous antibiotics 24/7, it leaves the body kind of wore out, But that's what it took to knock down that infection. And it was apparently a very severe infection. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dealt with it that way. But it leaves you kind of wore out. I call it hospital hangover. And so I'm, as you could tell from the way I was speaking this evening, I'm sure, I'm feeling good, and I'm just praying for the energy, strength, and courage to be focused and offer that focus as has been done. And when Jesus said, "Ask and ye shall receive," I just depend on that. I don't think he was blowing smoke at us. So
I don't think so. Well, we'll be praying for you also.
We will.
Yes, absolutely.
Take
Absolutely.
care, Brother
Shankara.
Shankara.
All right. Bye-bye.
well,
Bye, everyone.
Good night,
Bye.
good night,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Namaste.
Namaste.